Good evening. I'm calling the regularly scheduled meeting of La Habra Heights City Council to order for May 11th, 2026, and we're just adjourned from closed session. And Todd, could you report out, please?
Yeah, we did discuss the items on the agenda, but there's no reportable action. That is all.
Very good. Thank you. And roll call, Norm?
Here.
Greg?
Here.
John?
Here.
Carol? And I'm here. And please, everybody stand for the flag salute.
And Mayor, I misspoke actually. There was one item where the council authorized the potential initiation of litigation on a 5-0 vote, for the record.
Okay, thank you. And with that, Kathy Howen, you have a report, please?
Good evening, Mayor Bergman, members of the council, staff, citizens of La Habra Heights. I, along with Adam Nazaroff, are appointed by City Council to represent La Habra Heights on the Puente Hills Habitat Citizens Technical Advisory Committee. And our new chair is Brian Corris, who is from the city of LA. And so he's the chair of CTAC, and I'm the liaison to the board. I've been asked by a few of the city council members as to how do we communicate to the board and vice versa. And so you're looking at the conduit right here because I am the liaison. So what the Habitat does, it actually talks about the agenda items that the board's going to talk about on the Thursday. We have our meetings on Tuesday night. And I actually take notes and go through all, explain, write down their ideas, what they thought about the different agenda items and everything. And when I go over to the board, I actually will then present that to the board. And sometimes I have seen them where they were going in this direction, and they turn around and go in an opposite direction by things that CTACs have said. And it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's kind of nice to see that impact. And then the board, I go back to the Habitat, the CTAC, and I tell them what they had said about whatever it was that was on the agenda items. And that's how the flow goes through. And I've been doing this ever since I have been placed on CTAC. The first 3 months I wasn't a liaison, then I became one and so it's more than 12 years that I've been doing this. And so it makes it easier when I come and talk to the city council because I am there with the board as well as with CTAC, so I kind of know what's going on. And for an example, I had made a comment about the health and environmental impacts of data centers. It ended up being one of their agenda items. And at that time, Supervisor Solis had successfully created a moratorium on any data centers until the health and environmental aspects have been studied. There's no pending permits to build data centers that have been filed at that time. And there are lots of areas that have been rezoned to be able to have data centers in the city of industry, Puente Hills Mall being one. And it was just suggested by CTAC that perhaps after the vegetation maps are completed, look at the wind directions. Which way are they going? Find out where the high-risk areas or the hot spots are for fire in general. When these high fire risk areas are located, which includes the impact of the wind activity, suggest excluding any of those areas for data centers that could impact the habitat to potential fire. Noise caused by the data centers, how much noise will the preserve be able to tolerate? Because that's a constant 24/7 sound. And so the Habitat Board wants to make sure that the habitat is protected. The Habitat Authority cannot support data that is harmful to their trust. And these centers are going to have an impact, such as use of lots of water, impacting the grid, and the loud buzzing noise. So the Habitat Authority responsibility is to take care of the land, animals, and plants. And these centers could impact the migratory activity of birds, and hikers want to be in nature, not hearing noise pollution. So what the Habitat does, or are trusted to do, mandates that the Habitat Authority protect the land, vegetation, and wildlife for future generations, for people to participate in nature as nature, not interfered by outside areas. So the Habitat Authority is considering a standing policy stating that in the interest of wildlife, vegetation, and lands, mandate that they look at each project individually to assess the impact. Before they were going to do a blanket idea, but because CETAC was saying, hey, let's just look at the hot spots and work from there, they changed their mandate to looking at, let's look at one thing at a time. So upcoming activities, the 10,000 steps hikes are ongoing. There was one last Sunday at the Black Walnut Trail. And check our website if you're looking for times and locations to go and enjoy these. On Saturday, June the 20th, from 7:45 to 9:45, there's a Discover 22 Species hike. This is a new thing at Aurora Pescadero Trailhead in Whittier. You can join their volunteer docent, John Peel, on an adventure of discovery in attempting how to identify 22 species of plants, bugs, birds, reptiles, and mammals in the preserve. I wanted to let you know that the California Arborist now is in contract with the Habitat for annual fuel clearance services within the Authority's preserve in La Habra Heights in the amount of $185,450 for a possible 5-year total of $584,634. The reasons why we're choosing California Arborists is because they're local, they know the residents, so it's easier to get into their properties, they're familiar with the topography and job requirements, and they will always have extra people at the job sites, and they're quick to respond to the habitat whenever we need them. Now, there's an issue that's going on, that's the use of motorized vehicles in the areas of the Habitat Authority, and that they have been increasing. And in the number of the vehicles that are there. And these are not children that are driving these, so please do not go on any trails with motorized vehicles because it disrupts the wildlife. And you will be heavily fined if stopped by the ranger. And FYI, the rangers do law enforcement as well. Now, for the public safety meeting, there's one on Saturday, June the 27th from 12 to 1, and you're invited to volunteer to help out the Habitat Rangers, Fire Department, Law Enforcement, and the Habitat Authority on the 4th of July the fireworks watch. The location of this meeting is in 5040 Workman Mill Road in Whittier at the Sycamore Canyon Barn, which is near the parking lot. Check out the information on our website if you're interested in this. And the fireworks watch location assignments will be made at this meeting. And then on July 4th, people will be going to their designated areas, but there's going to be a 5 p.m. pre-party, and that location will be shared at the June 27th meeting. And I know that La Habra Heights will also be needing volunteers for safety patrol in the open spaces throughout La Habra Heights during July the 4th, and I'm sure there's meetings that they're about to prepare for people to get involved. I strongly recommend that people do, because we want to make sure that we are safe and no horrible things happen during July the 4th. And as always, you can always visit online at habitatauthority.org or on the social media sites for more up-to-date information about happenings and events. And feel free to reach out to myself or to Adam Nazaroff if you have any questions. We still need another person from La Habra Heights on CETAC. That's my report for.
Very good, thank you. Does council have any questions of Kathy?
So a couple things, Kathy. So I guess I just want to make sure, is it the Habitat's predetermined that they oppose data centers? Is that kind of what they've said, or?
Well, they're in the process of, they haven't really, they're on the fence at this point. But they're leaning towards saying, okay, if we learn from our their maps that there's an area that is very high probability of a bad fire, like it's a hot spot, they might just say, not a good place to put one.
So that's better than high-density housing and
It's
thousands of
better than
people
saying,
that
no,
come
no,
with it?
no, nay, nay, you can't have these. Because they don't think it's fair if they say nay, nay to all of it.
Yeah.
So they're saying, let's look at our maps. They're going through the vegetation. Now they're going to go back and say, well, if the winds are blowing away from the habitat and towards wherever you're having the centers, I don't think there's going to be an issue.
And-
So they're going to look at each different potential site.
And on the public safety issue, I have noticed a large number of e-motorcycles on habitat property. Those are incredibly dangerous.
Yes.
Because if there's an accident and one of those things catch on fire,
Yes.
they're impossible to put out. Can you ask the habitat that if maybe at a future council meeting, Ken Hughes or one of the rangers can come talk to us about what they're doing to mitigate that activity?
I know-
Because I mean, I can see the habitat land from my house, and every weekend, every
There's
day,
those kids. Well,
there's
adults.
e-motorcycles on the habitat. And I'm very concerned about the danger that presents to our city.
And
So
to-
I
to
would
the
like
whole
to know how
area.
the habitat's mitigating the use of those vehicles on habitat land.
I do know our rangers have motorcycles, and they have gone out and caught people.
Yeah.
Your first ticket is $500, and it goes up from there.
Well, I want to give Ken or someone from an
ask
opportunity in a public forum to talk
Definitely.
about what the habitat's doing to try to protect our residents from that danger, if they want to do it.
Sure, I'll relay that to them
Okay.
and see before the next board meeting if they can set up something before the
Perfect.
next council meeting. Maybe he'll even come to that meeting. We'll see.
I would love for them to come to our June meeting and talk about that issue.
I will do that.
Thank you.
And Carol's got a question too.
That's for clearance in the heights, yes. And of course, it may go up because we may have more, this year it seems to be more vegetation, so.
Is there an existing contractor plan that specifies where that money will be used?
Well, I know that the Habitat's been working with our fire, I think it's the chief or the marshal, I'm not sure who for sure, I have to ask, but you would know. But that's who they work with, because if there are certain areas or certain things that the fire department says, hey, we'd like to see this, they can talk to the Habitat and they can, because they're going by whatever they've discussed with the fire department in the past, so then maybe it's time for another meeting, I don't know. So,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
And with that, we'll move into public comments. John Dominguez.
Good evening, Chad Dominguez, Avocado Crest Road. I just wanted to expand about the 4th of July, because as a Fire Watch member, we already are planning a few activities. And unfortunately, it's a given that illegal fireworks will be heard and seen days before and after the 4th of July. It happens every time. So in an effort to have a proactive strategy to minimize a brush fire in Powder Canyon on the 4th of July, I would like to request that the City Council formally ask the Habitat Preservation Authority that the facility be closed at least on that day, on the 4th of July, the whole day. I did check the website. They are planning on closing it half day on the 4th of July. But I was kind of hoping the whole day so the fire department, La Habra Heights Fire Department, doesn't have Powder Canyon on their minds that day in the daytime because it's open. And now we're talking about motorcyclists running around and whatever else may be happening. So really, being part of a LHH Fire Watch group, we're just trying to have the fire department have a non-event, boring day on the 4th of July. And we'd like to definitely suggest that we close, excuse me, the Powder Canyon on the 4th. If not more days, that would be even greater. So as you know, it all depends on the weather too. It may be cooler that day, I don't know. But the fireworks are going to be going on for weeks. So the closer we get to the 4th, the higher the danger goes up. So that's that. The other thing, I just want to give you a quick update about the volunteers. We've got 20 volunteers now. We had 4 volunteers help me while I was away for 2 weeks. They were the ones who were coordinating the reminders to the Hacienda Road cleanup crew when it was going to be happening and everybody else to join, blah, blah. All that was being done by 4 different volunteers that had signed up. We have one now that is in charge of maintaining the spreadsheet that we keep for the information of each volunteer, what their contact information is and what they are interested in. And the latest volunteer is a web developer, and she wants to help out with maintaining the ongoing construction of the website, of the database for the storm drains. So that's stuff that's going on. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess, Kathy, you heard that?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, we'll move into committee comments. Anything? City council comments?
So,
John's got an item.
so Rafferty, can we go ahead then and agendize on the June agenda a discussion about 4th of July preparedness? And Chief, we should probably chat a little bit about having you come up and talk about what the fire department's going to do. And Giovanni, I know last year we had 2 sheriff's deputies that were here on overtime. I know that there's an overtime issue right now with the department, but I want to make sure that, I don't know how soon we need, I don't know if June's too late, but, you know, we'd absolutely love to have you here in the evening on the 4th of July. And then, you know, maybe talk to your reserves and see if we can at least get 1 reserve unit up here. And I'll figure out how to make La Habra Heights more lucrative than Industry or Hacienda Heights. Maybe a special dinner for our volunteers. So, but if we can agendize it to get to let the public know what's going to happen, because obviously our council meeting will be after the 4th. So next month is our only opportunity.
Definitely will include it for next month.
Okay, with that, we'll move into the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, Chief will talk a little more about it. But over the weekend, we had a Fire Service Day event at the park. I just wanted to thank, we had some event sponsors that made it possible for us to be able to put that event on. So I'd like to thank the La Habra Heights Improvement Association, Matrix Oil, Jan Fiore, and Multiplan Insurance Agency. They gave us donations, which allowed us to be able to provide some food for free and get some vendors to be able to do some crafts and things for the kids. And I'm sure the chief will talk a little more about that. But we also do have the LHH yard sale coming up at the end of the month. So on the 30th will be the annual yard sale. I believe they are just about sold out. The last time I talked to Ms. Brooks, she had maybe a couple of spaces left. So it's shaking out to be another good event.
City attorney's report.
No report.
Community development report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So last month, the building department issued 24 building permits with permit valuations a little over $400,000. Took in about $33,000 in permit fees. Our inspector conducted 97 inspections. In code enforcement, we received 1 code enforcement complaint. There are 21 active cases they're working on. We closed 3 cases. Our code enforcement officers did 9 inspections, issued 9 notices. We issued 5 citations. We had 2 meetings with residents over their cases. And our city prosecutor is actively working on 3 code enforcement cases. The unpermitted construction, we issued 3 stop work orders. So there's 52 active cases. We closed 5 cases. Inspectors conducted 15 inspections, issued 12 notices, 3 citations, and we had 11 meetings with people about their active cases. And our city prosecutor is actively working on 2 cases right now for unpermitted construction. In the planning, we took in 7 development applications. We have 59 projects under review. We approved 5 projects. Staff had 21 meetings, reviewed 11 projects, and 73 correspondences with applicants and or people interested in developing developing projects and asking the questions about future projects. I'd just like to highlight on the code enforcement unpermitted construction. We have been working a little bit closer with the city prosecutor related to some of our cases. We have one that is out, has been noticed on the property over on West Road for pre-abatement. So we have issued their notice and order to comply. It has a deadline of the end of the week, and that is for them to clean the property of brush and weeds. There's also junk, trash, and debris and an old RV that needs to be hauled out on that one. So that particular property, we have seen since we have noticed it and had some communications with the city prosecutor and the property owners that we've seen some progress this week. They have been out clearing the weeds beginning in the middle of last week through the weekend. They have got the trash that was on the property staged to be removed, and they're working on a way to get rid of the RV. So it would be nice to see that one completed by the property owner and us not have to go out and do the actual abatement on it. But if we do, we are ready to move forward with abatement warrants and do the work to remove the items from the property. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Questions? Carol?
Yes, I would respectfully request that we go back to the old format where the lists of the open cases, the addresses, the date they were first cited, and then the progress update. I've had numerous comments from various people that watch what's going on, and I like to track, and this shortened version just does not give me the information I feel that I can do a good job for the constituents. And we've had that longer, more detailed listing of each, specifically the code enforcement and the unpermitted construction. I haven't been following, to be honest, the planning applications, but at least on the code enforcement and the unpermitted construction, I would request we go back to the old detailed listing.
Is that a consensus of the council?
I agree with her.
Okay. Norm?
I would make a minor change, a minor alteration. Basically, I would make an exception for those who might mess up once and then they, when they're talked to by the city, make the correction relatively quickly.
Norma, are you talking about the fire clearance stuff that we?
Among others, especially the fire clearance, because often there's a.
This isn't that. This is the code violation. This is.
Oh, in that case, I'm good with it as it stands. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm good with what Carol's proposing. Thank you.
John?
I'm good.
I guess we go back.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you're trying to shorten things, but thank you.
Okay, Fire Chief's report.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Council. The month of April was pretty active. We did have 63 calls for fire service. We had actually 4 structure fire calls. 3 were in LA County, 2 were working fires, and then of course on April the 18th we did have a significant fire on Art Shield that was contained within 30 minutes with no exposure problems or injuries. That is still ongoing investigation. It's going to probably be determined to be electrical. The month of April, as I said, was pretty busy. We successfully completed the sale of engine 774, and then we put out the salvage of the 2008 Ford Edge and the 2007 Chevy Silverado. I have in my hands an updated summary of the draft Zone 0, which is I am in the process of going through it and making it user-friendly for presentation to the residents, and that'll be shortly coming. The last thing was a successful fire service day. Thank you all for attending, and to the staff and everyone. Well attended and a lot of help. I'm very appreciative of that. For the first time doing this, in my knowledge, I thought it was pretty successful. It was a lot of fun for the kids. And as we start, we can always get better. That's all I have. Any questions?
Okay.
Yep. Carol, go ahead.
Carol, you're
Oh, you said the fire on Archfield was out in 27 minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes was controlled?
Yes, ma'am.
Because there was some gossip flying around that it took 27 minutes to get there. So
No,
that
ma'am.
must be the,
No, what initially happened is that because of the location of the house itself, we went out as an investigation. It was not at the onset considered a structure fire. Somebody saw a whiff of smoke, so they said, oh, let's call the fire department. They thought it was a barbecue. And then when we arrived on scene, went down if you've been out to that house, long driveway, and the fire was not visible from the street. When they got in front of the house is when they actually changed it and made it a structure fire. So there might have been some confusion, and that's might have been what you heard. But we were on scene very quickly.
great, thank you.
You're welcome.
John?
So, Rafferty, do we want to think about sometime this summer doing a brush clearance workshop? I know clearances due May 1st, but Chief, I mean, I think the changes to this Zone 0 are they're going to be tough to understand for folks.
That's exactly what I'm proposing.
So, and maybe Rafferty, we can get some of the local brush clearance companies to come in and, you know, maybe they can sponsor this and make it a little bit of an event where we can, you know, do some advertising, get hopefully a group of folks here, have some real examples about what this means to our city, because it's new. And I think it'd be worth it, maybe, you know, upfront enough that people can actually take action before like the major fire season gets here in September and October, which is the typical fire season. I know we want to be clear so people don't misunderstand. Fire season's year round. Our clearance is due May 1st, which was a couple weeks ago. So hopefully everyone has done their clearance work. We're doing inspections, but I think it would probably be good to have like a workshop on this topic sometime this summer.
You could definitely work with the chief to put
Yes.
some of that together.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, you're stealing my thunder. That was going to be my proposal.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's
All right.
fine. No, that's an excellent idea. And while we're talking about it, I'm going to reach out to the experts at CAL FIRE and also bring in some of my colleagues with LA City and LA County.
Yeah, I know we had someone here from CAL FIRE last year, a year before.
We did, yeah. Gentleman came out from CAL FIRE to kind of talk about some of the fire safety things and zones. And
I see Catherine's still here. It would be good to get Catherine, someone from the Habitat, to come out and talk about all the great work they keep telling us they're doing. And Cal Arborist would be good to, you know, reach out to Cal Arborist, reach out to, I forget Dave, what's Dave's? There's a couple of companies in the city that do a lot of work up here.
yeah, we have four that California Arborist, Coleman Landscape, and Alpine Meadows. And then there's a new one that's later today. We have some new brush clearance contractors, a new vendor that's local as well.
Yeah, I mean, make it into a little event and try to attract people.
Okay, then we'll, just a comment for the chief. Thank you very much for putting that on at the park. That was nice. I know those things they're a lot of work, but the kids in the community appreciate it. The Sheriff's Department report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to report a arson had occurred, well, 2 acts of arson on April 16th. It's going to be page 3 of the crime information stat. I was on scene. I did handle the call. Myself, along with responding units, checked the vicinity, but unfortunately we're unable to locate the suspect. We additionally had the helicopter, our aero unit, conduct a full flyover of the area. However, I was able to get video surveillance footage. A picture of the suspect was taken, and I have been unable to find him, but I've been canvassing La Habra PD as well as working with them to try and identify and arrest the suspect for lighting 2 trash cans on fire. It took place off of Harbor on Pocono, and then, or excuse me, Pepper Tree, and then down Pocono. So efforts have been made to identify him. La Habra Heights arson investigator and LA County arson has been notified of the incident, and a bulletin has been circulated amongst the local departments. The suspect is described as a male, white, or Hispanic, approximately 50 to 60 years old, wearing all black with a very, very bushy white beard and a bicycle. So again, if I have been conducting patrols to try and arrest and identify this person, but there has been no incidents since that.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, with that, we'll be moving into the consent calendar.
Sorry, Mayor, can I have the chief speak about one last thing that did
Yes.
occur last month, that our fire marshal was involved with a little operation in the area related to fireworks.
So if you aren't aware, Chief Jorgensen has become part of a task force for Area E. In doing so, he's become one of the arson investigators, and it makes it a lot easier to have somebody in-house to do some of the mitigation that if we ever need an arson investigation. And we actually used it on a house that we had on Harbor that we had some questions about. But one of the things that they were successful in doing was uncovering a warehouse that was loaded with fireworks. So due to their efforts, they were able to confiscate all this product and prosecute the people that were responsible for harboring the fireworks. Big deal. It was all over the news.
Where was the house? Was it in the La Habra Heights?
No.
Oh.
No, it wasn't at La Habra Heights. It was at a nearby warehouse.
Okay, thank you. And I'll read through the consent calendar, and if council wants to pull any items, let me know. Item 9, to waive reading in full of all ordinance resolutions and meeting minutes on the agenda. Item 10, Treasurer's Report for the month of March 2026. Item 11, approval of the warrant report for April 2026. 12 minutes, April 2026, regular council meeting. 13 minutes, April 20th, 2026, special city council meeting. Item 14, project updates and deadlines. Item 15 is Brea IT contract renewal. Item 16, one-year extension of the landscape maintenance services agreement with Mariposa Landscape Incorporated. And item 17, agreement extension of Los Angeles Gateway Region Integrated Regional Water Management Joint Powers Authority. And with that, does anybody want to pull any of those items for discussion? Do I have a motion?
Move approval?
A second? Did you second it?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Norm?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Carol? Yes. John?
Yes.
And Brian's yes. And with that, we'll move into item 18, which is a public hearing regarding protest hearing unpaid brush clearance items. I'll open it up for does anyone want to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the council. And may I have a staff report on this, please?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you tonight is a protest hearing for unpaid brush clearance lien costs. As we talked about, our brush season just did kick off, but it is year-round. And we did have 3 abatements that were done recently that we have provided opportunities for those property owners to pay those invoices prior to going to lien, and they have not responded to and or chosen to do that. So before you tonight, there are 3 properties that would be up for lien. All of them are not frequent flyers. They're not usual suspects that end up on the lien process, but we're lien this go around. So the recommendation tonight is to overrule protests, if any, offered during the protest hearing and adopt Resolution 2026-06, confirming the report of costs incurred by the city and authorizing the assessments as liens to be placed on the tax rolls effective May 11th, 2026. If you have any questions, myself or the chief, happy to answer.
Any questions on this?
Oh, just briefly, do any of the owners live on the property themselves?
One is more vacant. The other two do live on the property.
Good, thank you.
And do I have a motion on this?
Move to approve Resolution 2026-06.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Carol? Yes. John?
Yes.
Norm?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And Brian's a yes. Okay, with that, we'll move into item 19, which is an ordinance amending chapters 7.28 of the La Habra Heights Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units and determining the ordinance to be exempt from CEQA. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you tonight is an update of our accessory dwelling unit ordinance. As we said, the last time we have updated our ordinance was in 2023. Since that time, there has been a few changes in state law, and this is one of the things we needed to update our ordinance to be consistent with state law, so this is one of the steps in the process. At the end of April, this item did go to the Planning Commission for them to review. Attached, you'll see a draft ordinance, which includes the regulations, and there is also a redlined version that will highlights the changes from the current version to the new version, so you can see what has changed in our ordinance for that. City Attorney's Office has worked extensively to make sure that we are consistent with the requirements of state law, to make sure we're meeting all of those things and changes that have been done at a state level. The Planning Commission did review the ordinance, draft ordinance, and made a recommendation to the City Council adopt the ordinance. So it is before you tonight. Our recommendation is to introduce ordinance number 2026-01, an ordinance of the City of La Habra Heights, California, amending Chapter 7.28 of the La Habra Heights Municipal Code relating to accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units, and determining the ordinance to be exempt from CEQA, and schedule a public hearing and second reading for and adoption for the June 8th, 2026 regular City Council meeting. If you have any questions, myself or City Attorney would be happy to answer.
And two more points, if I may, Mayor. Point one, not only are we doing it to be consistent with state law, we're doing it because HCD asked us to do it to be consistent with state law, so it would be a good thing to follow through on that. Secondarily, state law, even if we had no ordinance or if our ordinance was inconsistent, state law would preempt our local regulations, so people could follow the state law anyway. What the benefit of this ordinance does, it does allow us discretion in certain areas that we have some authority over. So if you were not to approve this, oddly, all we would be doing is losing authority rather than gaining the limited authority that the ADU laws allow us on a local level. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Council have any questions? I do have one question. It loosens the number. I know it probably affects other cities more than it does us, but as far as number-wise, how does that affect us as far as on the properties up here?
For us, it mostly affects multifamily properties, zone properties. So multifamily projects is where the majority of the changes occur as far as number of units allowed.
So being we have limited multifamily, really doesn't affect us as far as the numbers on.
Correct.
Minimal impact.
Okay.
I mean, you are allowed, though, under state law to have an ADU, a JADU, to do an SB9 lot split, to do an ADU on each of the new lots. So, but that's already cooked into state law.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Yes, I have a question. What's the definition of an attached unit? Would that be could that be included an attached ADU?
JADU would be anything that's attached to the house.
Okay, and then would the Would that JADU, because it's attached, would that make that structure multifamily structure at that point?
No. Doesn't make it a multifamily structure.
I just want to make sure because it has a different criteria for multifamily structure.
Yeah, by definition, an ADU does not change the single-family residential definition for a single-family house.
Well, I've seen definitions and definitions, but thank you.
Yes.
Just a final comment. With the growth of ADUs in the city and so forth, shouldn't we consider extending our prohibition against gated communities to include those communities that would include both a house and an ADU or two or something like that? Because that's not a multi-family, but still it's more than one household.
I don't think that would have any impact on the ADU ordinance that we have. That would be more of a
Yes, no,
policy for
we
us
could
to
do
do
that
it.
at a different.
I don't know if having
That would not affect this particular ordinance.
like a JADU and an ADU in a house, I don't know if you'd be getting into the territory of a gated community.
Because if I read some of the fine print, that one of the modifications is that even though it's on the same parcel, if I understand correctly, somebody could sell their ADU to somebody else and have two owners owning different structures on the same property. Did I misunderstand that, or is that correct?
That is theoretically correct.
So this is one of my concerns, but if it will not affect this ordinance today, I could bring this up at another time when I'm better prepared. I will save it for another day. Thank you.
And do I have a motion?
Move the adoption of ordinance number 2026-01.
Second?
And then part of that is scheduling for the next session. And
Yeah, because it's an ordinance, it requires two readings.
Right.
So the next one will be, the public hearing is set in
June 8th.
June 8th, yeah.
do I have a motion and a second? Norm?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Carol? John?
Yes.
And Brian's yes. So with that, we'll move into item 20, which is approval of the fiscal year 23 to 25 street improvement project zone 3 and 5 and notice of completion. Notice this, there was quite a few change orders, so may I have staff report on this, please?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, we recently completed the two-year project, so the fiscal year 23-25, which covered zones 3 and 5. So that one was bid and awarded to the contractor in October of 2025, and work began in January of 2026. And the work was completed on the project on March 17th of 2026. There were a total of 9 change orders through the project. Those moved from drainage control along East Road. There was a section of East Road. We did make a couple of changes to the project as we went along. One was to revise the location in the area that we paved of East Road. So originally it was a narrow section between Shelby Glen and Valle Drive was going to be full width of East Road would be ground and overlaid. We changed that to do the eastbound lane of East Road between Tuman and Coban, which runs along the drainage channel on that side, which has been in pretty rough shape over the last several years. So as we did that stretch, we did uncover an area of the drainage channel that had encroached and undermined a section of the roadway. So we had to go in and refill that area. We put the large boulder riprap in there to keep it from happening in the future. That was sort of that first change order. We made a revision to a section of Fullerton Road, the type of curb we were doing in one area where we had some washout from the big storms back in 2024. So we changed the type and the size and the look and the height of the port-in-place concrete curb along Fullerton Road. That's a little bit south of the trailhead for Powder Canyon. We were going to do a drain along East Road west of Lamont. Unfortunately, there was a gas line in that area where we were not able to do the type of drain that was proposed, so we actually got a credit back for the drain materials that they had purchased to do the work. We did do additional berm work on Avocado Crest. There was a need to do some additional striping in a couple of areas on Oleander and one other street that we had to go back and redo. That we found a few more survey monuments that weren't that were buried in the roadways, so we had to raise those survey monuments to grade. We did increase the height of a berm section on Avocado Crest that is west of Lamont Road. As we were working, we found out the contractor Hardy & Harper specializes in a large boulder riprap system that works really well for drainage areas, and there's been a failed drain on Lamont for the last couple of years that's been slowly eroding away and making it a little bit dangerous for the street and a close by utility pole. So we worked with them to be able to fix that section over there. So we redid that drain in that area with a large stone boulder riprap, which will provide a much better solution to that particular area. And the last one is just the balancing bid item. So that's where that one is rather large, because that's your additional asphalt tonnages and grinding area for our changes on East Road. We used a little more tonnage of asphalt as we went through the project, and areas got expanded a little bit on the sides once hillside slough was uncovered, and the need to slope roads to make sure the water flowed correctly. So all in all, the change orders totaled $265,192.29. There was originally a contingency for the project, which was originally bid as $1,575,000. So we originally set a 15% contingency. This, with the added change orders and the additional work we did, exceeded that 15% contingency. So we are a little bit over that. So we did exceed our 15% change order. So the recommendation tonight is to approve change orders 1 through 9 in the amount of $265,195.29. Authorize the budget amendment to increase account 101-450 PWD 6830 by $52,839.15 to increase the contingency, except the fiscal year 23-25 street improvement project Zone 3 and Zone 5 as complete, and direct the city clerk to file a notice of completion with the Los Angeles County Recorder. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Council have questions? I don't have a question. I just have a comment that it seems like they did a pretty good job out there. The roads from the section of the stuff that I've traveled looks real nice. So do I have a motion on this one?
Move to adopt the recommendation of staff.
And a second? A motion and a second. Norm?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Carol? Yes. John?
Yes.
And Brian's yes. Okay, with that, we're moving into item 21, emergency repair to storm drain over on Vista Road. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item before you tonight is we had a section of storm drain that started to fail. In attachment 1, you'll see some of the pictures of it. So this is a section of Vista Road at the loop end, close to Pine Edge Drive. We got a notification from a resident over there that there was a sinkhole in the street. Staff went out to take a look, and sure enough, we found a sinkhole in the roadway over in that location there, just a little bit north of Pine Edge on Vista Road. So we immediately contacted a contractor to plate it, put a steel plate over it, so we didn't have anybody driving into it since it was in the middle of the roadway. And then began looking at the storm drain. As you can see, there's a few photos of the existing storm drain. It's an old corrugated metal pipe. The bottom of the pipe had completely rusted through and affected the integrity of that particular line through it. As we were doing initial inspections, we noticed that there was a line that was running through the pipe. The pipe had actually been cut around another pipeline that crossed through the storm drain pipe. So we're trying to determine what that pipe was. So we did a dig alert to have the underground utility companies come out and mark the locations of their lines. So gas company, water, sewer, all of those people would come out and mark. There was no identifying lines to it, so we had to dig a little deeper into it and investigate a little bit deeper, we were able to get a camera down closer to it and realize that it was an old sewer lateral that ran through that section of line. So when they replaced or put in that pipe at whatever time it was put in, they notched the pipe around the sewer lateral that was there. So in trying to address it, we had to figure out how to deal with that sewer lateral and work on the pipe. As we were working with the city engineer on that, we noticed that the portion of the roadway that had been plated closer to Pine Edge was starting to sink. So you could see visual subsidence of the roadway. So it was starting to sink and looking like it was going to collapse. So we moved forward on emergency purposes to go ahead and replace the storm drain, since we didn't want the whole entire roadway to be able to fail and cause further damage or life safety issues or vehicle damage that goes through there. So we worked with J.A. Salazar and Construction and Supply Corp. To do the work. They went in and removed the section of damaged old corrugated pipe and replaced it with new pipe and connected to a concrete pipe that is at the county's line. So the county had a concrete pipe that came up to our old corrugated metal pipe. So we connected to that one over at Pine Edge and their connection of our border there, and completed that work to it. So our recommendation tonight is to receive and file this report as public record showing the nature of the emergency and the city manager's authorization to proceed pursuant to provisions of the city's purchasing policy, section 2.10.100C, and public contracting code section 22050, and authorize the assistant city manager to amend the budget to increase account number 101-450 PWD 6656 by $37,771.08 for the emergency storm drain repair by J.A. Salazar Construction and Supply Corp. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
So that lateral was an active lateral?
When they got into it and we got to that it was an old abandoned lateral that was there. It was full of dirt and everything, so it wasn't in use, so we just removed it and put the pipe in.
Okay, all right. Okay, any questions? I have a motion.
That was my question, so thank you.
I need a motion.
Move to approve recommendation of staff.
And a second? I got a motion and a second. Carol? Yes. John?
Yes.
Norm?
Yes.
Greg's yes, and Brian's yes. And with that, we move into item 22, which is authorize execution of agreements for brush clearance, vegetation management contractors. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item before you tonight, every 3 years, we go out for an RFP for approved list of landscape contractors to do abatements with for fire department. So these, if are approved, these will be the contractors that will be placed on our approved abatement list. So when the fire marshal is ready to go out to abatement, they send the bids out to all 4 of these potential contractors, and they will bid on the projects, and the lowest bidder is the one that receives the bid and then move forward with the abatement work on there. So we do it on a rolling basis every 3 years for that. So it is time for us to renew our RFP. So fire department, so Chief Jorgensen and Don went together and put out the RFP and solicited proposals from landscape contracting companies. We received 4 responses that were submitted from Alpine Meadows Landscaping, California Arborist, Coleman's Landscape, and United Pacific Services, Inc. And they are all met all of our requirements. Licensed contractors have appropriate assurance levels and the ability to go out and do the work in the timelines that the chief needs to be done for that. So our recommendation tonight is authorize the city manager to execute professional service agreements for brush clearance contractor, vegetation management with the 4 recommended contractors in a form approved by the city attorney, and list the contractors on an approved brush clearance contractors list for 3 years. If you have any questions, myself or the chief would be happy to answer.
Council have questions? I guess I have one. How many do we have in the past, and is 4 enough?
We had 6 previously, so our current one is 6 on there, but for the majority, 3 of those are the ones that bid. California Arborist, Coleman Landscape, and Alpine Meadows are the ones that primarily bid on the work. The other ones on there were West Coast Arborists and Mariposa and some of the larger companies that almost never bid on anything.
So you see these as sufficient then?
we feel these number and the contractors are sufficient to be able to do any abatement work that we need.
I know, because when we had that excessive storm that one time, we had a lot of contractors out here, and they all rose to the occasion, so you feel 4 is enough then? Okay, that's the only question I had. I have a motion on this,
Move to accept the recommendation, Council, of the city staff.
and a second. I have a motion and a second. Norm?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Carol? And Brian's yes. Okay, with that, we'll move into item 23, which is resolution adopting 2627 project list funded by SB 1 gas tax revenue. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Every year we do this. We adopt a list of potential streets where work will take place, and it is submitted to the state, and it is part of our RMRA or SB1 funding that we receive towards street projects that we utilize as part of our maintenance for roadworks. There has to be an adopted resolution from the City Council that gets inputted into their system to make sure that it's out there and fully public and transparent. Our next zone we would be working on is Zone 1, so there's a proposed list of streets on there that include the PCIs of them, and also included in the resolution with you is that same list of streets. That would be the ones that we would work on as part of our next upcoming street project, which would be in Zone 1 on the far west side of town. Those are the streets that have not received any work in the past few street projects, or the ones that are in need of repairs. So if the City Council adopts the resolution 2627 tonight, we will process this and submit it to the California Transportation Commission for reporting related to SB1 and RMRA funding for upcoming street projects in the next budget cycle. If you have any questions, myself or Angie are happy to answer.
Any questions of council?
If necessary, we can change or amend, yes.
Do I have a motion
Move to approve resolution number 2026-07.
and a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Norm?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Carol? John? And Brian's a yes. So with that, we're through with the administrative items. Individual council members, does anyone on the council have any items to report or meetings that they went to or things to talk about?
Yes.
Norm's got one.
Okay. Last week I was attending the Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, annual meeting it's Palm Desert. And essentially SCAG is up to 191 individual members at different cities and other governmental entities from 5 counties, Los Angeles, Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura. And among other things, SCAG sets the RENA requirements for the various cities and other entities. And this next year they'll be initiating the new cycle. So it's important that we keep track of what they're doing. And that's enough for discussion for tonight. Thank you.
Anybody
Any
else?
questions?
Greg had an item, I guess.
I have just one. We referred back the question of how to deal with the Public Works property at Hacienda and West to the PC. And so in a little due diligence, I asked Coleman's Landscape to give me a bid to do some preliminary beautification of that site in case that becomes something they take up. Coleman delivered a bid proposed idea That would be getting rid of the berm, getting rid of the weed trees on the hacienda side, removing the berm, rough grading the property, that's 2.9 acres roughly, rough grading the property, putting up a 652-foot chain link fence with baffles in it, colored baffles in it, running a drip irrigation line on the outside of that adjacent to our hacienda and put in 162 5-gallon plants that were fast-growing plants that would grow against the chain link fence, and then recommended that they would put in, I forget the number, 130 tons, I think it is, of crushed concrete. That's recycled crushed concrete. That's the cheapest of the bases that will compact well. Then roller compact it after fine grading to enclose the property. That his estimate $91,000. 91.
I don't think we have water on the site, right, Ralph? We'd have to put in a water connection with the,
Yeah, we don't have water, but we could always work with the district to put a meter in.
what's that?
My understanding is we have water at that site.
I don't believe we have water to that site, but we can work with the district. If water is needed to that site for something, it's just putting in a meter.
And I think we should talk to the person that owns the property at Canada Sombra and Hacienda to find out what plants he used. Because, I mean, within a year, they had completely covered the fence, so.
I know we rolled this back to the planning commission. They didn't really have any input on it.
They did. They discussed a little bit, and then we had another item that one of our staff members brought forward that we're going to package it back together and go back to the commission because actually Vice Chair has had a good idea that I don't think was one that we had really looked at of stables and a riding arena, like a good quality stable that could be used for boarding of horses, and an arena type, which might be an interesting use that I don't think had come up before that, so it was a good recommendation. And then we had a staff member that knew of something similar in Oregon and Washington where they went through a process and did sort of like a community type space and utilized different things to allow some little pop-up things to happen there. So we'll try to put some of that together a little more formally to bring it back to the commission so we can come back to council.
Yeah, let the planning commission continue to work on it, right? And get some ideas. And I mean, what Greg brought up is a really good idea too, because that would stop our bleeding as far as clearance of the property and stuff. It's a one-time cost, I guess, rather than this recurring thing. All right, with that, that's all we have. On public comments, not on the agenda. Anybody want to speak? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
7 minutes.
Well, no, if you take off the beginning, if you take